Watch. Okay. So this is the drawing where we left off. And during the week, I started going in and doing some work on it. I'm doing some stippling on that right fender. And what you'll start to see here is I kind of go into a time lapse now. And it's going to show you what I did over the last week. Okay, I'm sorry about that. My video wasn't there. Hey, this is I'll go back and say this all over again. This is a drawing that my grandson Parker and I worked on together. Parker did most of the drawing on it, and I just helped him with it. And he was asking me about it here a few days ago, so I wanted to put it on here and show everybody what he does. He's a really good artist. He does a lot of really good work. And Parker, if you're watching this, buddy, or when you watch this, I love you and good job. All right. So with that, let's get into this week's work on the car. So this week we're going to be working on the hood area, all this area in here. Now, this area of the car, other than, obviously the front end of the car, this is the biggest area of the drawing. So there's quite a bit of work to do in here. And let me bring up my reference photo that I worked from. Give me a second here. There we go. All right. And I got what I need. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to grab one of my lighter ink pens. And what I'm going to start off working on is I just want to kind of get in the highlight. I want to kind of start separating those really, really bright highlights from the rest of the hood. Okay. So now what I was doing in the video was what's called stippling. I showed you that a little bit in the previous week, but all it is taking the tip of the pen and just very lightly tapping it. And I'm laying down just small little dots of ink. And as I lay those small dots of ink down, they basically create a tone, a value. And I can go back into those areas and I can lay down more dots and it will make it darker. Okay. In fact, I'll show you here. I've got a little area that I need to do that on. So I'm going to come down a little bit here. Okay. And there is an area right here along this edge where the shadows are a little bit darker. So I'm going to lay in a few more layers here. And you'll see as I do that, that's starting to develop a slightly darker tone. The nice thing about stippling is you can really control the gradation of the shadows. So this is really good if you're doing portraits, if you're doing large surface areas, like here on this hood. You can do it with hatching and cross hatching, but when you're doing it with stippling, you just have so much more control, and there's so much more that you can do in terms of controlling the gradation this way. Okay, and you get a much smoother, I think anyways, a much smoother look to it. Okay, all right. So I hope everybody's had a good week this week. I've had a really good week. My wife and I celebrated our 4-year anniversary. And we've been together for 8 years. And we've known each other for our entire lives. So I won't tell you how many years that is because I don't want to give away how old my wife is. But it's been a long time. We've known each other since we were kids. And we just finally got together later in life. And she finally agreed to marry me. And she's been an awesome, awesome partner and an awesome supporter. And she's one of my biggest allies in what I do here. And I just love her to death. So happy anniversary, slightly belated, and I love you, sweetie. So you can see with this, I mean, this is fairly time consuming to do this, but like I said, it's a really effective technique for covering large areas with a very, very fine gradation of tone. Now this is about the center line of the hood here. And if you look at the reference, you'll see that on this side, it's going to go into very, very dark, almost black in some areas. And we're going to get into that in a little bit. But for now, I just want to try and get as much of this side of the hood taken care of as I can. Now, when I get ready to do the small nameplate here, that's going to be interesting. I'll probably do that in another session, or maybe even during the week. I want to try and get the name of the vehicle in there. The little plate says Lincoln, and I want to try and be able to get that detail in there, but it's such fine detail, so small detail, that I'll probably have to put on, I've got like a magnifying glass that I can wear, and I'll probably have to put that on, so when I get into it, it's going to mean that my head is going to be covering up the camera, so you may not be able to see it that well if I'm doing that like I normally do on the live streams, but I may try and rig up one of the cameras to the side so that I can catch what I'm doing perhaps, and I will share it just like I did this evening with the video. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you are tuned in and you're watching, please feel free to jump into the chat and let me know you're here. If I see a message pop up from you, I will do my best to get back with you and acknowledge you. And if you've got any questions or comments about the drawing, about the channel, just throw them in there, and I'm more than happy to chat with you about it while we're doing this. This is one of the things I'm in the process of learning how to do, is to carry on conversations and kind of multitask while I'm working on my drawings. Most of the time when I get in here and draw, I'll turn on some music, or I'll turn on a book or something, and then I'll just start drawing, and I don't carry on conversations when I'm in here. It's more about focusing on the drawing. So doing this way on the live streams has been definitely a learning experience for me. And I think I'm getting better at it. My wife says I'm getting better at it, so I have to trust that she knows what she's talking about. But it's still a challenge sometimes. And I know I've said it before, and you know, if you've watched my streams, you may be getting tired of hearing me say it, but drawing is really kind of it's my relaxation. Even a frustrating drawing, I can get wrapped up in the moment and get caught up in drawing, and it just helps me to relax. It lets me tune everything else out and just focus on the drawing. It lets me not think about other stuff for a little while I'm working on the drawing. And if you've never experienced that as an artist, or if you've never done drawing and got to experience that, to get to that level of just kind of escape, I guess, you really ought to give it a try. It's a very, very relaxing place to get to, and it's like I've said multiple times, and I'll say it again and again. Drawing is kind of my form of relaxation and therapy. I highly recommend it if you are looking for a way to just relax and kind of escape the day's stresses and troubles. This is a great way to do it. All right. come over here and get some of this in over here. Okay, now right in here, there's one of the few actual highlights. So I want to very carefully work my way around that. And I'm just marking that off so I know it's there. So I don't go into that. I'm trying to create a little boundary for myself. Now I can come in here and do what I need to do with the drawing. That noise you're hearing is our dog. His name is Jack. He barks. He's kind of a goofball when it comes to that. He'll bark most of the time at not much of anything, but he loves to bark. So my wife is corralling him right now, trying to get him to settle down. There we go. So that's kind of a start on the hood. So now what I want to do is I want to try and get in some of the added values over here, which is where this hood curves around. And we're going to see if we can start to create that illusion of this hood curving around to the side. So I'm going to start here with this. You can see there's like a little bit of a rust or something coming down from under that chrome. I'm going to kind of pull that down here. And that comes into this little area here, which is definitely darker than the rest of the hood. And because my light is coming from over here, this side of the car should have more shadow on it. But it's kind of, actually, I guess the light's actually coming kind of from behind the car and forward. So everything on the front end is going to have more shadows. This hood is catching, I'm guessing, reflected light from somewhere. I'm not sure from where, but that's why it's still fairly light compared to the rest of the right side of the car. And this is where the stippling is really nice, because I can just keep coming in and I can just keep gradually putting more and more layers of dots down on here. I can control very easily where the dots are going. And I can just very steadily darken everything as I'm going along. Hey, like I said earlier, if this is your first time tuning into one of my streams, thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate you coming in and seeing what I'm doing. And if you would like to take a moment and subscribe to the channel, you can hit the subscribe button, and you can also hit the like button. And there's also the notification bell that if you press that, every time that I am scheduling a live stream or every time that I post a new drawing video or, well, any video, you should get some sort of a notification from YouTube to let you know that there's content out there to watch. And if you join me, I certainly do appreciate it. I'm hoping to grow the channel and see what I can do with this and share that with everybody. And I certainly would appreciate your support. Every little bit certainly helps. And your subscription and your likes and shares go a long way towards getting the channel some attention. So if you do that, I truly appreciate it. If you're tuning back into the channel and you've already subscribed, thank you so much for coming back and spending some time with me. Let me know what you think. I really do look forward to comments from people as far as letting me know what they think about my drawings, about my live streams, about my videos. I'm always open to your suggestions. If there's something that you think I could do differently or that you think I need to work on to improve my channel, please let me know. This is a new game for me and it's a learning experience, and your feedback and your suggestions and help are all part of what I need in order to make this work. So let me know. Share your ideas. I truly do appreciate it. All right. So now I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start working on this chrome strip. Okay. Now most of this chrome strip is just pretty much a highlight, but there is a design on that. And bear with me for just a second here. Now see, I've done this again. I know for a fact I have my glasses here. And now I can't find them. Oh, here they are. Okay. Not completely lost, just misplaced. Okay. So I'm going to come in here now and I'm going to start working on this chrome strip. Okay. And what I want to do first is I want to try and get the inner portion of this strip laid in here. So there's like a raised portion of this strip. And I don't know if these small dots of ink that I'm putting in are really standing out just yet. Right now I'm just trying to very lightly mark the line that I'm going to work with. Okay. So now that I've got that, I'm actually going to, instead of using the dots, I'm actually going to come in here now. I'm going to start to draw that line. Because it is a fairly significant shadow on here. Go. And now I'm going to jump to one of my medium shade pens. And I'm going to come in here and strengthen that line. And then as this gets towards the back, the chrome kind of blends with the shadow underneath the chrome. And then there is some reflection up here in the upper part of it. There we go. All right. And now I'm going to go to one of my black pens. It's actually not a true black. It's actually a really, really dark gray, but it's going to look very black on camera. I'm trying to be really, really careful with how much of this I'm putting down because I want to keep some of the gray. I want to keep some of the light gray. But I want to hit a couple of areas along here just to kind of help it stand out. And then up here on this front, you can definitely see the darker shadow here. Okay. And now I'm going to go back to my medium gray pen here. All right, so that gets the start of that chrome strip. Now that I've got that in there, it gives me some idea of what I need to do as far as my tones and values up here. So looking at this, I can see that there is it's kind of a combination of a dark shadow running across here, as well as some, I'm guessing, rusted or worn areas on the hood. So we're going to take my light pen and I'm going to start building up this area to create that shadow along here. And as I'm looking at it, as it gets back here towards the end of the hood, it actually comes back up towards the windshield. And then I've got another shadow here coming up. Go. And now as I'm looking at it, this whole area up here is a fairly dark area, so we're going to go over it again. We're going to darken it up. And hopefully you can see as I'm going over this again that the dots are pretty effectively filling in the gaps. And the more dots I put on here, the more of the white of the paper that gets covered. And so consequently, it takes on a slightly darker tone. And once I get enough on here to separate the hood from this chrome strip, then the chrome strip should start to really pop off the paper at some point. Once I get those values right. Unfortunately, the chrome strip is going to be almost a pure white. In fact, it is going to be a pure white. So that gives me an easy value to match and then to work against as far as what I'm putting down on here. Now the hood back here stays fairly light, so I'm going to be careful going back in here. I don't want to get too dark back in here. Now as I'm doing this, I'm working up into this shadow area that I created because I don't want to get this area of the hood too dark and ignore this, because then I'll lose this shadow area here that I've been working on trying to create. We're going to come up here a little bit more with that. Okay. Now there are some just really faint shadows that are in here as well. And those are important because those actually help these larger lines to define the shape of this hood, to show that it's got curvature, to show that it's in the brightness here, but then it's curving away from the light as it comes over here further. So I can use those to help accentuate that curve here. There we go. And now I think I'm going to come back under here and I'm going to darken this up as well again. So while there's a very hard shadow underneath this chrome, there's also a lighter shadow that's extending beyond that. There we go. Okay, I think we'll leave that for a moment. And I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start working on some of this larger area over here of dark. So I'm going to go back to one of my medium pens. Now in this case, I'm going to use a slightly larger nib than what I've been using because I've got a fairly big area in here that we've got to cover. But I'm only going to use it down here in the bottom part because I'm just really trying to cover a lot of area fairly quickly. And that's what these are really good for. Or if you need to draw thicker lines, these are great for that. You'll see how much more quickly this lets me cover area. Even when I'm stippling, I can stipple more area quicker with this than what I can with the finer tip. And we'll get up under here. we go. That helps get that in there really quickly. Now I'll come in here with the same medium gray, but I'm going to use the finer tip here. And you'll see how this requires a lot more work to provide the same amount of coverage. It can be done, but it just takes a lot longer. But what I'm doing is it's allowing me to put in a lot of the darker ink in here, but still keep areas that are showing as slightly lighter right now. I've said this before with pen and ink. You can always go in and make things darker. I mean, of course, until you get to where you've just got things to a pure black. You can always go in and make things darker, but it's a lot more difficult to pull back from that if you go too dark too soon. It's really hard to come back and fix that. So I'm trying to be careful not to go too far with my blacks and my darks. I want to build those up slowly. I want to make sure that I'm putting marks where I want marks to build up the tone that I want where I want it. This is one of those areas right here where I know it's going to be fairly dark up here. So I'm going to go ahead and try and throw some of that tone in to get it laid down. And then it comes down this way pretty good. So we can bring this down. There we go. Now there's a fairly light tone over here. And for the moment, I'm going to leave that alone. I'm just going to work down into these areas. Now looking at this, I know it has to go darker. And so I'm going to start to take this darker now in these areas. All right. go. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to go back in with, I'm actually going to use the lighter ink pen here. I want to get in this lighter tone here. But I'm also going to come down into these darker areas and I'm going to fill those up a little bit with some lighter tone in here. And you'll see as I'm doing this that it's making them a darker tone. And I can put several layers of this lighter gray ink into this and really bring this value down fairly dark with the lighter ink. And that lets me create kind of a blend between this shadow area and this lighter area that I'm creating up in here. And I know this tone up here has got to go darker. I'm going to bring it a little bit darker and then we'll come back down in here. And we'll come work in here. Now I could at some point just start coming in here and drawing with the pen. These shadows down in here, these areas are going to get so dark that if I do it, you're not really going to know. But I might as well just, I like the stippling. It's working. And I like the effect. I like the look that it gives on this hood. I picture this hood as being very pitted and it no longer has a smooth texture. It's very much like a sandpaper texture at this point where the paint has worn away and the metal is pitting underneath it. And so I think the stippling lends itself well to that effect and that concept. So we're going to stick with it. Okay. Now I'm going to come in with my really dark ink. And we're going to start working in this area down here first because this is where the darkest darks are at in this patch. I'm just going to start working my way up into these areas. I want to avoid these lighter areas because I don't want to get those too dark. There we go. Now I definitely want to make sure that around this nameplate that I've actually got a pretty hard line. So I'm going to go ahead and put a line in here to designate the edge of that. And now I'm going to do my stippling around that to build that up to almost a pure black right around the edges of that. So that way that nameplate will stand out. There'll be a lot of contrast between that nameplate and this dark area on the hood. And we'll come up a little bit and now I'll work into these shadow areas with the black pen because they can afford to go quite a bit darker. And you can see it's not taking very many dots of ink to get these darker. And so I don't want to go too far up there. If I go too far up, then I'm not going to get a good blend between the black and the medium gray, or I guess the dark gray and the medium gray. And I can just keep building up down here. There we go. So, all right. Well, that brings us to about the end of this live stream. We got quite a bit done on the hood. I'm going to continue to work on it throughout the week, and I will videotape it, and I will most definitely share it with everybody next week when we start the live stream. And it's a good possibility that when we do next week's live stream, we might be able to finish this car up. It just depends on how much I am able to get done down here as well as the hood. And if not, I will get it to a fairly good point and we'll finish it in the following week. No matter how it ends up, I will definitely share it with you. So, folks, thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate you spending time with me. I appreciate you coming and sharing what I do. And, like I said, please let me know what you think about it. Give me your ideas, give me your thoughts. And I'm certainly open to your suggestions. Have a great week and keep on drawing. Take care, everybody.